3 teens shot outside of a city high school.
At first I was scared because I didn't know if they were going to come inside the building.
Next at 4, our team makes parents' frustrations heard as they sound off on the continuous cycle of youth violence. Then we're examining the potential political fallout from an FBI raid on a Safe Streets location.
He talked a good game, but he not. He ain't about nothing. He ain't for the community.
And Baltimore remembers a fallen hero who died in the line of duty.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
Fox 45 is following 3 big stories in a city in crisis. 3 juveniles shot outside Carver Vocational High School in Baltimore. What we know about the shooting as calls for juvenile justice reform get louder.
And Safe Streets under investigation from the FBI. What we're learning about yesterday's raid and the political impact it could have in the city.
And Baltimore lays one of its heroes to rest. We'll take you to the funeral of a fallen Baltimore firefighter. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Maxine Stryker. We have team coverage on the city in crisis tonight, starting with Rebecca Pryor. And Rebecca, you've been following this Carver shooting all day long. What do we know right now?
Well, police say that those 3 teenagers are expected to survive. But tonight, parents still calling for change from school and city leaders, saying this school no longer feels like a safe place to bring their children.
Parents calling for help.
The FBI is investigating at least one Baltimore Safe Streets location, and now pressure is mounting for Mayor Brandon Scott to reveal more information about how the program operates. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost joins us live. And Mackenzie, we know this is a program you've been digging into for years, actually more than 2 years now, right?
Yeah, it's been a very long time since we have been starting to ask questions about this program, and right now there seem to be more questions than answers about this. But what we do know is that the FBI raided the Bel Air Edison Safe Streets site yesterday morning, and I'm told those federal agents showed up at that location around 6 o'clock in the morning and did see some property. But right now it's unclear the scope of the investigation. However, sources close to it tell us that it could be connected to possible Black Guerrilla Family gang affiliation. Now, with this federal investigation looming, political experts are saying this could mean a very difficult road for re-election for the mayor.
Has a negative connotation. And if there's a problem, shut some things down, because you don't want a situation where they're looking into 1 or 2 sites and they find out there's 3 or 4 sites with issues.
The mayor, it's an indictment of his leadership, will come to grips with the fact that this is one location, but what is the actual duties and how is Safe Street spending that money and who's actually working for Safe Street?
If something comes up with an indictment before the primary, it could be a political blow to the mayor.
And Mackenzie, you sent questions to Mayor Scott asking about this latest investigation. What do you learn?
Yeah. Well, we did send several questions yesterday after the news of this came out, and we didn't get direct answers to those questions. Instead, we got a statement saying that the mayor will cooperate and will work with the federal partners as this investigation continues to play out. But one thing that we do know is that set for next week on the city's Board of Estimates agenda is the city is expected to approve $3.6 million in state funding coming to the city for the Safe Streets program. So we know as the FBI continues to investigate, you know that we will also continue to investigate this program and ask questions of city leaders. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. There are a lot of questions about how the Safe Streets program operates, including how employees are hired, how they're tracked, and how Safe Streets workers spend taxpayer dollars. All of that raises red flags for some experts who say the program and Monzi need to be audited.
Public information such as what we're talking about is public under Maryland law. And when you redact these things, it is arguably a violation of the law on its face in the state of Maryland. So they need to have radical transparency, forensic audits. We need to be able to follow the money and, quite frankly, the elites, those large organizations like LifeBridge, which runs that center that was raided today, or Catholic Charities that run other centers on the Safe Streets program. Those elite organizations, why are they taking taxpayer money? Look, Catholic Charities got $143 million of gross revenue in the latest year available. The CEO of LifeBridge Health made $2.3 million, and 5 executives made over $750,000 in the latest year available. Why do they need taxpayer help? They should lighten the load on the local taxpayer. They should pitch in on their noble charitable mission.
The Safe Streets program hires former convicts, but it's not clear how the program makes sure employees don't continue to commit crime while they're working for Safe Streets. One example is Ronald Alexander, a Safe Streets worker who was convicted of distributing drugs in the communities that he was tasked with protecting. He also tried to use his status as a Safe Streets worker to hide his drug dealing. And in the Brooklyn office just last year, a federal indictment accused Vernon Harper of possessing fentanyl with the intention of distributing it. He was sentenced to 18 months in prison.
There's the case of Damon Scroggins, a Safe Street worker. Ronald Brady Jr. was accused of killing Scroggins in September of 2019. That case went to trial in 2022, but ended in a hung jury. Brady was acquitted in March. Scroggins' family calls Safe Streets a, quote, criminal enterprise.
My belief is that our city government is financing a criminal enterprise. I believe that within my heart. Our city government is so invested in it that it's turning a blind eye to what it really is.
Through our investigation, Mackenzie Frost has visited each Safe Streets location multiple times, but found few workers. At some sites, she couldn't find any employees at all. Fox 45 News has also found that some Safe Streets locations have changed, even though city websites still list them in their original locations. We tried to get answers from former Monzi director Shantae Jackson about the program, but more often than not, she walked away from our questions.
Director Jackson, can I ask you a couple of questions?
I think the mayor said meet us at the next.
Are you going? You have to realize that we have a job and we have the right to ask questions and get information out.
Director Jackson, can we talk about the multi-year Safe Streets contracts?
We don't have any comment today.
I know that you announced your resignation and you're planning to leave. Can you say where you plan to go?
Let me stop right here.
Okay.
Never, ever will I prioritize any news about me over top of news about our young people.
That's why I didn't ask
so we
during
can
the
save
press
that question for a time when I'm ready to share it. Thank you.
In the wake of the FBI investigation, Fox 45 News asked our viewers, should Safe Streets be shut down immediately? 97% of those who responded said yes. That brings us to our question of the day. Do you think the mayor is being transparent about Safe Streets? That poll just opened. If you want to make your voice heard, go to our website, foxbaltimore.com/vote.
A young Baltimore firefighter remembered as a hero. We show you how the community is honoring Rodney Pitts.
And inside the FBI raid on Safe Streets, a former agent talks about how a raid works and what this means for the organization.
President Joe Biden has a new challenger. I'm Janae Bones in Washington with a look at why Democratic Congressman Dean Phillips says he should be the next president.
And it's been an unseasonably warm day for October, but temperatures tomorrow could be even higher. I'll let you know how long this warm stretch lasts and what to expect for Halloween in my full forecast.
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Police in Maine are looking for Robert Card. He's the suspect in the mass shooting that killed 18 and injured 13 others this week. Today, divers searched a river near where they found his vehicle. Officers also investigated a lettuce farm and the suspect's home. Now, police found what they're calling a suicide note addressed to the suspect's son.
Overnight, our officers, our investigators, and that's investigating. I say I'm talking about local, county, state, federal, all of our partners, been continuing to work 530 plus tips and leads that have come in from the general public, from a number of communities, a number of different relationships.
Well, shelter-in-place orders remain in effect for areas surrounding that shooting. It's been days now.
Democratic Congressman Dean Phillips launched his long-shot bid for president Friday in New Hampshire. President Joe Biden's age, a key factor in his campaign. Our Janae Bowens explains.
I'm Dean Phillips, and I'm running for president of the United States of America.
Congressman Dean Phillips of Minnesota is the first sitting lawmaker to take on Biden in the Democratic presidential primary.
I think it's time for a new generation. I think it's time to pass the torch. And I say now. I think the time is now, because I think 4 years from now, it might be too late.
Biden's age, a key factor in Phillips' decision to run. That sentiment echoed in a poll from Monmouth University released earlier this month. It shows 56% of Democrats say President Biden is too old to serve another term.
America is telling all of us, through polling, through conversation, that they do not want this man as our nominee next time.
Congratulations. But the polling shows Phillips' chances might be a long shot. A large majority of Democrats, 68%, are enthusiastic about Biden becoming the party's nominee.
I don't know if this is actually going to be a significant primary challenge. In all likelihood, it probably isn't. But you know, a sign of weakness for presidents who may end up losing re-election is that they had some trouble within their own primary.
Phillips is a Biden supporter, but there are key issues where he's going to attempt to draw a distinction, such as crime and the border.
Chaos at our border and in our cities is growing, while our commitment to countering it is receding.
The Biden campaign appears to be brushing off Phillips' run. In a statement, they didn't even mention him by name, but said in part, quote, President Biden is proud of the historic, unified support he has from across the Democratic Party for his re-election. Now, Phillips announced Friday in New Hampshire, traditionally the nation's first presidential primary. But due to Democratic Party rule changes, it won't be recognized this year. And Biden isn't on the ballot there, potentially giving Phillips a chance to boost his candidacy. In Washington, I'm Janae Bowens.
New House Speaker Mike Johnson says the President Biden impeachment inquiry will continue. He made that clear during a Fox News interview, putting to bed questions of the inquiry's future.
It's a real problem. That's the reason that we shifted into the impeachment inquiry stage on the president himself, because if in fact all the evidence leads to where we believe it will, that's very likely impeachable offenses.
The House GOP investigation centers around the still unverified allegations regarding the president's son, Hunter Biden, namely whether the president was involved in his son's business dealings and if Biden engaged in bribery.
Also making headlines tonight, a judge rules that Ivanka Trump must testify in the civil fraud case against her father, her brothers, and the Trump Organization. Ivanka Trump's attorney argued she should not have to appear after an appellate court removed her as a defendant in the case. The judge sided with the state, which contended that she has relevant information. Her testimony will not be scheduled before November 1st to give her time to appeal the ruling. Well, how about it? Feels like summer today, doesn't it?
It does. It feels great, Maxine.
It's wild.
Jasmine's not happy, by the way, Maxine.
I know she's
that.
not.
You know she likes that
heat.
nice, cool weather.
Yeah, you know, it's fall. It should feel like fall, and it really didn't feel that way today. It's not going to feel that way tomorrow, but next week, it's back to nice fall weather. What's that?
You don't feel like we're teaming up against you, though, do you?
No.
Okay, good.
I know you guys like the warm weather. There are
Okay.
lots of people that do like the warm 80s. And if you do like the nice and warm weather, it's coming again tomorrow. In fact, temperatures could be even higher than they were today. 79 for the current temperature and mostly cloudy over Baltimore. A little breezy across some parts, but otherwise mostly dry. We did have a few very stray showers over the state. A few stray showers linger on the eastern shore, but the rain will quickly clear. And we are looking at a dry evening. Mostly cloudy here, but some other areas with plenty of sunshine. Temperatures across the state are mainly in the upper 70s. We did hit the 80s, so it was another very unseasonably warm day. Overnight, our temperatures fall to the 50s and 60s, keeping things pretty mild. And then for the afternoon, look at those high temperatures. We're talking the mid-80s. After that, a drop to the 70s, a big change in temperatures, but this is still above average for Sunday. We'll have the chance for a few spotty showers. We'll be in the 70s again on Monday with another chance for showers. You'll notice the big cool down, though, right on Halloween. So we've got high pressure over the region, keeping us dry, but that will depart. We've got a few showers to our west, and we could have a few stray showers a little later this weekend. Notice on the future scan, we start with dry weather tomorrow and plenty of sunshine. Then into the afternoon, still looking at lots of sunshine to go with those warm temperatures. It's overnight and into Sunday morning when we have our next chance for showers. Those rain chances continue into the afternoon, but we're not looking at a washout. If you have any plans to be outside on Sunday, you will want the rain gear and make sure to check the radar. 62 for the low temperature tonight. That's well above average and actually closer to our average high temperature for this time of year. Tomorrow, our temperatures go from the 60s to the mid-80s by the afternoon. Very warm for this time of year. And as we continue into the rest of the weekend, we'll start to see that cool down, and you will notice the big change in temperatures on Sunday. 70 for the high, then 71 with another chance for showers on Monday. Unfortunately, there is the chance for a few spotty showers on Halloween. Notice temperatures, though, we're talking the 50s. We're looking at 56 on Wednesday. Then we rise back to the 60s by Thursday with plenty of sunshine. After that, 62 for the high on Friday, and we're looking at a dry start to the weekend. Back to you.
Coming up, Fox 45 News obtains footage of an armed carjacking in South Baltimore. More on this robbery and the arrests. And the FBI raid on Safe Streets. A former agent explains the process and what it means for the organization. Also, Maryland's most wanted, a custody exchange ends in gunfire as a father is accused of opening fire.
The road through postseason baseball on Fox 45 is sponsored by Johns Hopkins Children's Center.
No matter how good or bad they are at the beginning of the season, all 30 MLB teams set their goals high and strive to get to this point. The reality is only 2 teams will make it. This year, it's the Rangers representing the AL and the Diamondbacks representing the NL in the 2023 World Series, with 4 wins between them and the Commissioner's Trophy. Nathan Eovaldi will get the start in Game 1 for Texas, a seasoned vet with plenty of postseason experience. And he'll be opposed by 28-year-old Zach Gallen, who is set to make his first World Series start ever. The Diamondbacks playing underdog yet again.
We dug ourselves a pretty deep hole there, and same thing, going into Citizens Bank Park, losing the first 2, and then had our backs against the wall. It kind of seems to be the mantra of the team. We just like to, play with our backs against the wall.
Very excited for this opportunity to be able to start a game. Obviously, I'm very grateful for the past experiences. Just being able to participate and get into the World Series was big, and I kind of had my moment there. But coming in, having Game 1, trying to set the tone for the team, there's a lot of pressure with that, but there's also a lot of excitement, and I'm definitely ready for this opportunity and go out there and compete against a really good lineup.
We are your exclusive home for the 2023 World Series. The pregame show starts tonight at 7 right here on Fox 45. Game 1 begins shortly after. The Diamondbacks are in search of their second World Series title and first since 2001, while the Rangers, they either first ever first pitch scheduled for 8:03 p.m. And the late edition of Fox 45 will follow.
Straight ahead, a hero laid to rest, how the city is honoring a fallen firefighter. In the FBI raid on Safe Streets, a former agent explains what a raid looks like from the inside and what is likely happening with this investigation right now. And coming up, what does the Safe Streets raid mean for the program's future? A government accountability expert on the next steps for Safe Streets and city officials.
An armed carjacking is caught on camera. That crime, Baltimore police say, one of several armed robberies and carjackings committed in just one morning.
Alexa Ashwell is live now in Southeast Baltimore with that surveillance video and the latest on the arrest of 2 teens. Alexa?
Yes, Kai Maxine, Baltimore police have confirmed there have been about 7 armed carjackings and robberies here across the southeastern district just yesterday alone. We want to show you some surveillance video from one of those armed carjackings. Take a look. Watch as several people surround a man. He had just gotten out of his car. You can see in the video one pulling out a gun. The suspects surround him. At one point, you can hear the victim saying repeatedly, "Okay, just take it," speaking to his car. As we mentioned, this was one of about 7 armed robberies, carjackings that have occurred within the span of several hours yesterday morning. Baltimore police confirm a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old were arrested for at least one of those other cases. Investigators say the teens stole a car at gunpoint on South Conklin. That's where we are right now in Highlandtown around 3 yesterday morning. Later that day, police say an officer spotted the stolen car, and after a brief foot chase, both teens were taken into custody in southwest Baltimore. Baltimore police are now saying they believe those teens are responsible for other crimes. They haven't said specifically, Kai Maxine, which ones.
And Alexa, what have investigators told you about these teens and the charges they're facing?
So, Kai, we know both teens, 14 and 16, they are being charged as juveniles. Investigators have not yet specifically what charges they are facing. We know they were taken to the juvenile booking facility. Investigators did say the 16-year-old had just been arrested for auto theft back in August. We'll have more on that coming up at 5:30. For now, reporting live in Southeast Baltimore, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Alexa, thank you. Well, those carjackings come just days after a string of crimes across Federal Hill and Fells Point, also believed committed by juveniles. Take a look. In one morning, there were at least 6 carjackings across the 2 neighborhoods, all of them happening within just 2 hours of one another. One of those incidents even caught on camera. In this security camera footage, you can see a group approach a woman out for a walk with her dog. One witness telling Fox 45 News the group punched her before stealing her phone.
A city councilman says some people don't feel safe in their own communities. Councilman Eric Costello sent a letter to Deputy Mayor for Public Safety Anthony Barksdale about a crime in his district. Costello wanted answers about a man on a scooter who was mugged. The area had lights and surveillance cameras. Costello wrote, quote, "The perpetrators have little fear given the brazen nature of this crime." Costello also complained about the length of time it took police to reach out to the victim and gather evidence.
I've spent every waking moment over the last 5 days fielding phone calls, text messages, and emails from residents who don't feel safe. People are scared to come out of their home in the middle of broad daylight. That is insane. The administration needs to do something to get this situation under control.
For our full coverage on the youth crime crisis and more information on the councilman's concerns, go to our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Continuing coverage now on the investigation into Safe Streets. The FBI raided the Bel Air Edison location early yesterday morning. Agents also searched the homes of 2 Safe Streets employees. Sources close to the investigation say the searches are related to a possible connection with a Baltimore gang. Now, Fox 45's Jeff Abel is looking into what this investigation means and what could come next. Jeff?
Well, what this means is that FBI agents, according to retired agents, are very far along with this investigation and are already convinced they have a case here. Raids like the one that went down at Safe Streets on Bel Air Road yesterday don't happen without layers of oversight. Before agents are allowed to search a location, approval must be granted by an FBI supervisor, a federal prosecutor, and a federal judge. And to get that approval, experts say agents must show that there's already probable cause to prove a crime has taken place.
If the FBI is this far along where they've gotten probable cause to conduct a raid and a search warrant, probably means the investigation had been in effect for probably a year, because again, you have to do a 30-day preliminary investigation. So at the very least, you've investigated for 30 days and gotten permission to continue this particular investigation. So they've done a lot up to this point where they have enough where they don't really mind the organization or others being alerted to the fact that this organization is under investigation.
Well, during a raid like this, Powers says often agents are searching for more concrete evidence to prove their case. And often, he says, it prompts other witnesses and other people close to the investigation to come forward and cooperate. We're live tonight. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Jeff. For years, Fox 45 has been pressing Safe Streets for details on its workers, hiring practices, and how it spends taxpayer dollars.
And tonight we are joined by David Williams, president of the Taxpayers Protection Alliance. David, thanks so much for being here.
Good afternoon. And this raid is a stark reminder why Safe Streets, why Monzi, they need to go through an audit. There needs to be oversight, transparency. I mean, this is obviously very disturbing. And as a taxpayer advocate, I see tens of millions of dollars that have been spent through Safe Streets and tens of millions of dollars that are going to be spent in future years on this program. And, you know, this is the mayor's flagship program, right, to reduce violence. And to have this sort of raid go on is really awful. And again, there's a lot of taxpayer dollars that are at risk here. And this is very concerning.
And David, millions, as you mentioned, of tax dollars have gone into Safe Streets, but the public still doesn't know much about how that money is spent, who's spending it, or if the program is even working. Do you think that this investigation could lead to more accountability in the program? And what exactly do you think that would look like ultimately?
I really hope so. I hope that this is the impetus to do that, is to do this audit. And what this audit would look like is to go through Safe Streets and look at every single expenditure, every single receipt. But it can't stop there, because Safe Streets gives a lot of money to nonprofits, millions of dollars to nonprofits. And that's where I think a big part of the problem is, that when you're a nonprofit, you report your financials on a yearly basis, but there's a time lag. So some of these nonprofits, we only have information from 2021. It's 2023, almost 2024. We should have that information simultaneous. So I think there are two problems here. It's Safe Streets, but also the nonprofits, and finding out where the money is being spent, because obviously there are problems inside this organization. And if they fail an audit, stop funding them. I mean, you have to freeze the funding for Safe Streets if they fail an audit.
Yeah, David, you know, and I'm not sure if you had a chance to watch just a few minutes ago, political analyst John Dede said maybe this is a time to shut it down, because he thinks this could very well hurt the mayor's campaign. That remains to be seen among the voters. But do you think Safe Streets should be put on pause, shut down for the time being during the investigation? And how does the public ensure this doesn't happen in the future?
Absolutely shut it down right now. You know, we saw in July during the hearing for the Brooklyn Homes shooting is that Safe Streets didn't answer a lot of questions. And you have people at Safe Streets that are making a lot of money. Shut it down and make them, you know, they have to do something to earn the money, right? They can't just, this can't be a handout to them, and that they are on this automatic paying from taxpayer funds. There has to be a reason why they exist. And if they can't show that, it has to be shut down. And listen, I think last week we saw some Maryland state officials call for an audit. We need the city council, we need the mayor to do this and call for this audit and to make sure. And, you know, we've seen money spent on sneakers, money spent on travel. Some Safe Streets people went to Los Angeles, and I want to see the receipts. I want to see every single receipt that they've spent on. And also the place that was raided, you know, what kind of equipment was in there? Was there equipment that was purchased by taxpayer dollars? Or was there a whole cachet of shoes? We just don't know. So I think we have a lot more questions than answers, but I think this could be the moment that people say enough is enough. And I'm hoping the mayor says enough is enough, and not just because of a re-election campaign, but because it's the right thing to do.
All right, David Williams with the Taxpayers Protection Alliance, thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
And Fox 45 will continue to update this story on air and online as we learn more information, and we'll update you. To follow along, you can look back at our previous stories and coverage of Safe Streets. Go to our website, foxbaltimore.com. Making headlines right now, Maryland is one of 30 states that has settled with Safeguard Metals, who authorities say was part of a $68 million fraud scheme that targeted the elderly. The lawsuit alleges the company used, quote, lies and fear to advise customers their retirement accounts were at risk of loss, and that buying Safeguard's fraudulently priced precious metals, was a good alternative. Authorities say more than 450 people lost money due to the scheme. All eyes are turning to our Halloween forecast, of course. This is a look at some drone footage showing
Fall foliage across Maryland, along with live look at Baltimore in Towson right now. Looks beautiful, doesn't it? And it looks like a beautiful weekend, but trick-or-treaters, they might be in for a rude awakening on Halloween night. Meteorologist Jasmine Lomax is in now with what comes next.
Yeah, it's been so warm outside. It looks beautiful, but we have above average temperatures, so it's really not feeling like fall. And that's not just here, but it's really around the entire region. We're mainly seeing the 70s and even the 80s. A couple spots in the 80s in Virginia. Richmond, one of the high spots at 82 currently, but all of this is going to change later this weekend. High pressure has been keeping us nice and dry, but our next cold front is on the way, and that's going to lead to a major cool down for Sunday. But once we get closer to Tuesday, we'll have a second cool down on the way, really cooling things down for Halloween. I'll have a closer look at just how low the temperatures get in my Weather Authority forecast. Back to you.
Jasmine, thank you. Put the power of the Weather Authority Storm Center in your hands. Download the free WBFF Weather Authority app for your smartphone. Use our powerful Doppler radar to follow storms to your street. Go to your app store and search WBFF to get started.
Baltimore firefighters gathering today to lay one of the city's heroes to rest. A funeral held this morning to honor Rodney W. Pitts. Pitts was one of two firefighters who died after a fire burned through multiple row homes in northwest Baltimore last week. Lieutenant Dylan Ronaldo was also severely burned in the initial response and spent multiple days in the hospital before his death. Today at Pitt's funeral, members of the department, friends, family, and first responders from far and wide all came to honor him and reflect on the loss.
This is the inherent risks that come with this job. But to see such an outpouring of love within the fire service industry that is so wide and far-reaching, it really warms your heart. And although we are in the midst of grieving, we literally grab a hold of one another for comfort, for solace and support as we endure this really, really difficult moment.
Shocking, something that I always thought I would see on a movie and never in person. And then, you know, being a family member, that's kind of what stung a lot. But it was amazing to see how organized everything was. It was overwhelming.
His pinnacle of life was to become a Baltimore City firefighter. He reached that pinnacle. There's no greater love does any man have than to lay his life down for his brother. And that's what Rodney's sacrifice exemplified.
Israel is moving forces into Gaza, marking the beginning of what's expected to be a long and bloody ground offensive. The Israeli military says its ground forces are expanding their activity in the Gaza Strip after a barrage of airstrikes after nightfall. Defense officials say the aerial attacks are pinpointing Hamas tunnels and other targets. Israel's goal is to destroy Hamas, which experts say will be difficult considering the dense urban environment. It's not clear how Israel is defining what it would mean to defeat Hamas. Fox 45 is partnering with Magen David Adom for Sinclair Cares Humanitarian Relief for Israel. That organization is a Red Cross affiliate providing emergency medical aid for all people in Israel. You can help by scanning the QR code on your screen or going to sinclaircares.com. A custody exchange ends in gunfire. Here's Alexa Ashwell with Maryland's Most Wanted.
Investigators say Daryl Davis has multiple warrants for his arrest, including the attempted murder of the mother of his child. The U.S. Marshal Service now joining the search.
June 22nd, 2023, Baltimore City. A woman walks into a hospital with a gunshot wound and tells staff she heard gunfire while waiting outside of her car to pick up her child, then realized she had been hit by one of the bullets.
Baltimore Police Department was alerted and went to the scene.
That scene here, the New Shiloh Village Apartments in West Baltimore's Mondawmin community. Officers checked area surveillance and watched a much different story unfold.
Facts gathered subsequent to the investigation revealed that the woman was involved in a domestic dispute.
The footage, investigators say, shows a man walking out of the apartment complex with a child. He approaches a car in the parking lot, opens the passenger side door, and according to court documents, begins to assault the driver by throwing the bags into the vehicle. In the video, the man then pulls out a gun,
pulled a firearm and shot her.
The woman drives off. Investigators, realizing the victim had lied about what really happened, begin to try and piece together the identity of the man in the video. Another resident is able to identify him as 37-year-old Daryl Davis.
He was already wanted before he got involved in the shooting.
A check into Davis's background revealing he already had a warrant out for his arrest and was well known to law enforcement with previous arrests for drug possession, guns, and assault.
So this guy has an extensive criminal history. Not only is he involved in this current crime of violence, but he's said to have possessed firearms in the past, and he is actively wanted for a violation of probation as we speak.
Davis now wanted for attempted murder, on the run, and potentially armed.
Anybody who's willing to pull a firearm and shoot someone they love is obviously a clear and present danger to community safety.
Take a good look. Davis, as you can see, has a tattoo in the middle of his forehead. He stands at about 5'10" and weighs approximately 215 pounds. Investigators do warn he has violent tendencies and is believed to be armed and dangerous. If you have any information regarding his whereabouts, you're asked to contact the U.S. Marshal Service. We have the tip line number right here, 1-877-WANTED-2. Or you can contact agents directly at 202-819-5058. Remember, you can always remain anonymous, and you could earn a reward. I'm Alexa Ashwell, and this is Maryland's Most Wanted.
It has been a very warm start to the weekend, continuing a nice and warm stretch. That is going to come to an end, though, by the end of the weekend. 79 for the current temperature and mostly cloudy over Baltimore. We're mostly dry around the state, but there were a few very spotty showers. Later this weekend, we'll have a better chance for rain. Otherwise, across the state, we're mainly seeing the upper 70s. We did reach the low 80s, making this another very warm and unseasonable day, but overnight, pretty mild. Temperatures will fall to the 50s and 60s, and then for the afternoon, get ready for another warm day. Temperatures reach 84. We're looking at a big drop in temperature, 70 for the high on Sunday, but that's still above average. We'll have the chance for a few spotty showers, and we have another chance for showers on Monday with temperatures staying in the upper 60s, low 70s. It's Halloween when you really start to notice the cool down and when it'll start to feel like fall again. We're dry around the region thanks to high pressure, but as we look west, you can see a few showers all ahead of our cold front. This front will result in that cool down that we have coming for Sunday, but it could also lead to a few showers. Notice on the future scan, we'll stay nice and quiet and dry overnight, waking up to plenty of sunshine. It looks good for the afternoon. Expect plenty of sunshine to go with those warm temperatures. More clouds move in for the night, along with the chance for stray showers. Rain chances continue throughout the day on Sunday. If you have plans to be outside, just make sure that you are keeping watch on the radar and maybe have a backup plan to move indoors. 62 for the low temperature tonight, keeping things pretty mild. Then tomorrow, our highs will rise to 84. That is over 10 degrees above average for this time of year. And that warm trend will continue as we head into early next week. Sunday's temperatures around 70 will still be above average. 71 on Monday with the chance for showers. That's all ahead of our next weather maker. And behind that, cooler temperature for Halloween. 55 for the high with lows dropping to the 30s. Then we're looking at 56 on Wednesday. We're back to the 60s on Thursday. We'll have plenty of sunshine, and the warming trend continues on Friday. Highs will be around 62, and we're looking at a dry start to the upcoming weekend. Back to you.
All right, Jasmine, thank you. Coming up at 5 o'clock, trick-or-treating safety tips, how to protect your kids from Halloween hazards. A new study shows promising results about getting the COVID-19 vaccine while pregnant. Medical reporter Liz Bonus says what's passed from mother to baby may be life-saving.
Hey there, everybody. This new study shows getting the COVID-19 vaccine may not only be critical for mom and baby's health, but it's also linked to a lower risk of a poor neonatal outcome. Researchers in JAMA Pediatrics found remarkable health outcome differences in newborns when moms chose to get at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine while pregnant. The antibodies formed against the virus in mom are passed from mother to child in utero. When researchers compared babies after birth of moms not vaccinated to those who did get the shot, they found a drop in death rates, a drop in the need to admit a baby after birth to the NICU, and a drop in severe complications from a disease or medical condition, which included
the need for treatment for jaundice, the need for IV fluids, the need for any type of oxygen therapy, those things that can potentially happen after birth.
Dr. Kristen Coppage, the system chief of women's services at Ohio's TriHealth, says since for most women who are pregnant, uncertainty about vaccine safety is the top reason for avoiding the vaccine, we now have the data to show
if you do get the vaccine in pregnancy, it is safe. Your baby is going to be protected and it doesn't cause more harm to your baby.
Researchers also found this safety was true no matter what trimester mom got the shot. Critical information because pregnancy itself puts mom and baby at greater risk for complications from the virus.
Your immune system is suppressed when you're pregnant. We're making, in a sense, a foreign being in our bodies. Half of us is like us and the other half is like the father of the baby. And so our body doesn't want to reject that growing and developing baby. And so everything is suppressed.
Dr. Coppage says one thing to note is that even if you eat well and take your prenatal vitamins, the thing about viruses is you can get sick from them anyway. So ask your own doctor about what's best for you and your baby. I'm medical reporter Liz Bonus. Back to you.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, a shooting this morning near a Baltimore high school. What happened and parent reaction and the school's response. And the FBI raid on Safe Streets, more on the investigation about possible gang affiliations and what this means for the future of the program.
He said he had the gunshots.
An early morning shooting near a Baltimore high school leaves 3 teens injured. What we're learning about the search for the suspect.
Alarming new video shows the moments a group of juveniles robbed a Baltimore resident, according to police. A closer look at the alarming trend.
Plus, remembering a fallen hero, how loved ones are honoring the life of a firefighter killed in the line of duty.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
This school is not safe for kids. Last year, it's been so many shootings, stabbings, robberies, people running into the school, running from the police. It's not a safe school for kids. Every day that my child leaves out the house to go to school, I'm concerned.
Parents are demanding change after an early morning shooting leaves 3 people hurt right outside of a city high school.
This has a potential to be a huge minefield politically.
This is corruption everywhere. It's just the city.
And the FBI raids a Safe Streets location for possible gang affiliation. The pressure mounting for more transparency and the implications for Mayor Brandon Scott. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Maxine Stryker.
And I'm Kai Jackson. Fox 45 News continues to follow the latest developments after the FBI raids the Bel Air Edison Safe Streets location yesterday morning. Sources tell us that's because of possible affiliation with the Black Guerrilla Family, or BGF.
And even more young people in Baltimore falling victim to senseless gun violence. This morning, 3 teenagers shot right in front of Carver Vocational High School. The FBI is investigating at least one Baltimore Safe Streets site, and now the pressure is mounting for Mayor Brandon Scott to reveal more details about how that program operates.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost joins us live. And Mackenzie, we know the program is one that you've been digging into for years. What's next for Safe Streets?
Well, that seems to be a big question right now, and as it stands, it looks like the city is still standing by the Safe Streets program. Now, we know the FBI raided the Safe Streets location in the Bel Air Edison community yesterday. I'm told federal agents showed up around 6 o'clock in the morning and did seize some property. Right now, the scope of the investigation really remains unclear, but as you said, sources close to it tell us that it could involve some possible BGF gang affiliation. Now, with this mounting, this federal investigation looming, political experts are warning it could set up a very difficult road for re-election for Mayor Brandon Scott.
The Safe Streets site along Bel Air Road sits empty Friday after FBI agents executed a search warrant here and at the homes of 2 employees Thursday.
First of all, it's no surprise.
This woman lives in the Bel Air Edison community, doesn't want to show her face on camera, but wants her opinion shared, especially about Mayor Brandon Scott and his flagship gun violence prevention program.
As far as the mayor is concerned, he didn't need the job in the first place. Okay, I'm 81, but it's one of those things that just needs for everybody to leave.
Safe Streets now in the crosshairs of the federal government.
Has a negative connotation.
That is a black eye. Political analyst John Deedy says puts pressure on Mayor Scott to open up the books on the program.
He probably has more details and facts about this than the feds do now. So the best thing to do, if there's a situation, find a nice slow news day on a Friday and get everything out of the way.
For 2 years, Fox 45 News has been demanding answers from the mayor and the mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. We've asked for the names of the employees. Who does the Safe Streets training? How is a mediation defined? And how do the nonprofits running each site manage time cards for employees and oversee the effectiveness of the program? Despite taxpayers funding the program, Mayor Scott and his team refusing to provide that information.
And if there's a problem, shut some things down, because you don't want a situation where they're looking into 1 or 2 sites and they find out there's 3 or 4 sites with issues.
The mayor keeping details about a program playing a critical role in his crime-fighting plan secret from the public.
If something comes up with an indictment before the primary, it could be a political blow to the mayor.
And Deedy isn't alone.
The FBI do not spend their resources unless they know there's criminal activity, there's criminal behavior.
Political commentator Armstrong Williams outlining the political implications of the FBI raid for the mayor.
The mayor, it's an indictment of his leadership, would come to grips with the fact that this is one location, but what is the actual duties and how is Safe Street spending that money and who's actually working for Safe Street?
After the FBI executed the search warrant, we sent questions to Mayor Scott asking how many current Safe Streets employees are breaking the law? Are any other Safe Streets sites under federal investigation? Is this latest black eye for the program enough for you to call for a pause in funding for and operations of Safe Streets? Will you now release the names of all Safe Streets employees to the public? Mayor Scott not answering the questions, instead saying everyone should be held accountable. and that he will work with the federal partners through the investigation. Back in Bel Air, Edison, people in the community on the fence about Safe Streets.
I don't know about the raid, but it's a good program. I think that things need to change.
But some are clear on where they stand on what this means for Mayor Scott moving forward.
He talk a good game, but he not. He ain't about no pain for the community.
I doubt if he'll win re-election irregardless.
Especially since the Scott administration appears to continue to cover up information about the multi-million-dollar Safe Streets program.
Now, we know that right now the city spending board is set to approve $3.6 million in state funding for the Safe Streets program during the Board of Estimates meeting next week. So while the FBI continues its investigation, we'll also continue to demand answers from the city about how it's spending your tax dollars. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Mackenzie. There are a lot of questions about how Safe Streets operates, including how employees are hired, tracked, and how Safe Streets spends taxpayer dollars. All of that raises red flags for some experts who say the program and Monzi needs to be audited.
Public information, such as what we're talking about, is public under Maryland law. And when you redact these things, it is arguably a violation of the law on its face in the state of Maryland. So they need to have radical transparency, forensic audits. We need to be able to follow the money, and quite frankly, the elites, those large organizations like LifeBridge, which runs that center that was raided today, or Catholic Charities that run other centers on the Safe Streets program. Those elite organizations, why are they taking taxpayer money? Look, Catholic Charities got $143 million of gross revenue in the latest year available. The CEO of LifeBridge Health made $2.3 million, and 5 executives made over $750,000 in the latest year available. Why do they need taxpayer help? They should lighten the load on the local taxpayer. They should pitch in on their noble charitable mission.
Well, the Safe Streets program hires former convicts, but it's not clear how the program makes sure that employees don't continue to commit crime while they're working for Safe Streets. One example is Ronald Alexander, a Safe Streets worker who was convicted of distributing drugs in the communities he was tasked with protecting. He also tried to use his status as a Safe Streets worker to hide his drug dealing. And in the Brooklyn office just last year, a federal indictment accused Vernon Harper of possessing fentanyl with the intention of distributing it. He was sentenced to 18 months in prison.
And there's the case of Damon Scroggins. He was a Safe Streets worker. Ronald Brady Jr. was accused of killing Scroggins in September 2019. That case went to trial in 2022, but ended in a hung jury. Brady was acquitted in March. Scroggins' family is critical of Safe Streets. They call it a criminal enterprise.
My belief is that our city government is financing a criminal enterprise. I believe that within my heart. Our city government is so invested in it that it's turning a blind eye to what it really is.
Well, through our investigation, Mackenzie Frost has visited each Safe Streets location multiple times, but found few workers. At some sites, she couldn't find any employees at all. Fox 45 News has also found some Safe Streets locations have changed, even though city websites still list them in their original locations. And we tried to get answers from former Monzi director Shantae Jackson about the program, but more often than not, she walked away from our questions.
Director Jackson, can I ask you a couple of questions?
I think the mayor said meet us at the next.
Are you going? You have to realize that we have a job and we have the right to ask questions and get information out. Director Jackson, can we talk about the multi-year Safe Streets contracts?
We don't have any comment today.
I know that you announced your resignation and you're planning to leave. Can you say where you plan to go?
Let me stop right here.
Okay.
Never, ever will I prioritize any news about me over top of news about our young people.
That's why I didn't ask
we
during
can
the
save
press
that
conference.
question for a time when I'm ready to share it. Thank you.
In the wake of the FBI investigation, Fox 45 asked our viewers, should Safe Streets be shut down immediately? 97% of people who responded said yes. And that brings us to our new question of the day. Do you think the mayor is being transparent about Safe Streets? If you want to make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com/vote.
Well, this morning, 3 teens were shot right in front of Carver Vocational High School in Baltimore.
Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor has the latest on this investigation tonight. Rebecca?
Well, according to police, those 3 teenagers are expected to survive. Still, parents are demanding action from city and school leaders, saying this school no longer feels like a safe place to send their children. This morning, those gunshots rang out at 7:50 a.m., just 5 minutes after the morning school bell rang. Among the victims, a 15-year-old in the area and 2 Carver High School students ages 15 and 16. Police say officers arrived on the scene almost immediately after the incident and were able to apply a chest press and tourniquet to one of the victims. From there, the school put a lockdown in place and alerted parents via email and on social media. Around 10:30, students were ultimately let out for an early dismissal. That's when parents frantically poured in to pick up their children. As we know, this attack comes as juvenile gun violence is escalating in the city. Parents I spoke with saying if something doesn't change soon, they'll be changing school districts.
It's a frightening thing for kids. You know, you get up in the morning and you prepare yourself to come to school. You don't prepare yourself to come to school and get locked down and you can't have no movement, people getting shot. Like, it's crazy.
It's a possibility that he need to go to another school because it don't make no sense that your child ain't safe in school.
Now, police say they're looking at school surveillance and CCTV cameras to locate the suspect, who they believe to be an African-American male. So far, no other details are being released about the suspect, and a motive remains unknown. In the meantime, anyone with any information is asked to call Crime Stoppers. In Baltimore City, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. The shooting this morning is the latest in a long list of violent incidents involving kids this year.
This week, Fox 45 News heard from Frederick County State's Attorney Charles Smith, who says laws in Annapolis have to change to crack down on juvenile crime and help set kids on the right path.
We do need to expand the list of crimes that we can charge younger children with. We have younger children committing serious offenses, 1st and 2nd degree burglaries, distribution of heroin and fentanyl. It's very frustrating, and people need to understand that really the biggest thing we can do to fight crime is to get these youthful offenders in the system and get them the resources that they need early.
A battle is brewing across the entire state when it comes to the youth crime crisis. Fox 45 News has heard from more than a dozen states' attorneys representing roughly 80% of the state's population, who say their hands are tied by Maryland's current laws when it comes to holding juvenile offenders accountable.
If we don't do something to hold these young people accountable, they will continue to run and almost have lawlessness in our cities. And we can't have that.
Some of our laws that have been passed recently do make it a little more challenging for us to hold them accountable. And that's sort of playing a role in some of the issues we're seeing at the moment.
And it's not just prosecutors who are concerned. Some parents also demanding change at the state level, telling us their own children feel like they cannot be punished for their actions.
But if we're just going to look at them and say, well, they're too young to know the wrong that they've done, that is not for Baltimore. That is not for Maryland, because kids in this city, in this states, are still committing crimes.
I don't understand how they can sit back and see this stuff happening and not immediately want to make changes or something.
Next month, state lawmakers plan to hold a juvenile crime meeting with DJS Secretary Vincent Schiraldi. He's facing questions about the department's ability to rehabilitate young offenders. Lawmakers will discuss juvenile justice laws during that meeting. We also expect to hear from those frustrated prosecutors, law enforcement officials, and parents who are asking for help. Baltimore firefighters gathered today to lay one of the city's heroes to rest. A funeral was held this morning to honor Rodney W. Pitts. Pitts was one of 2 firefighters who died after a fire burned through multiple row homes in northwest Baltimore last week. Lieutenant Dylan Ronaldo was severely burned in the initial response and spent several days in the hospital before passing away from those injuries. Today, Pitts' funeral, at the funeral, members of the department, friends and family, and first responders came to honor him and reflect on the loss. Coming up after the break, anticipation is building as we look to tonight's first World Series matchup. Rocco DeSangro will join us live to break it all down.
And Halloween just 4 days away. What parents need to know to keep their kids safe on the spookiest night of the year.
And we're dealing with summer-like temperatures. Overnight, we stay pretty mild with temperatures falling to the upper 50s and the low 60s. But next week, we're back to cooler temperatures. I'll let you know what to expect for the weekend and into next week in my Weather Authority forecast.
The road through postseason baseball on Fox 45 is sponsored by Johns Hopkins Children's Center.
No matter how good or bad they are at the beginning of the season, all 30 MLB teams set their goals high and strive to get to this point in the season. The reality is only 2 will make it this far. This year, it's the Rangers representing the AL and the Diamondbacks representing the NL in the 2023 World Series, with 4 wins in between them and the Commissioner's Trophy. Nathan Eovaldi will get the start in Game 1 for Texas, a seasoned vet with plenty of postseason experience, and he'll be opposed by 28-year-old Zach Gallen, who is set to make his very first World Series start, with the Diamondbacks playing underdog yet again.
We dug ourselves a pretty deep hole there, and same thing, going into Citizens Bank Park, losing the first 2, and then, had our backs against the wall. It kind of seems to be the mantra of the team. We just like to, play with our backs against the wall.
Very excited for this opportunity to be able to start a game. Obviously, I'm very grateful for the past experiences. Just being able to participate and get into the World Series was big, and, I kind of had my moment there. But coming in, having Game 1, trying to set the tone for the team, there's a lot of pressure with that, but there's also a lot of excitement, and I'm definitely ready for this opportunity and go out there and compete against a really good lineup.
We are your exclusive home for the 2023 World Series. The pregame show starts tonight at 7 right here on Fox 45, and Game 1 between the Rangers and Diamondbacks begins shortly after. The Diamondbacks are in search of their second World Series title ever and first since 2001, while the Rangers eye their first ever. First pitch is scheduled for 8:03 p.m., and the late edition of Fox 45 will follow. Maxine.
Thank you, Rocco. We'll bring on the sweets. Halloween is quickly approaching, and kids across the country will be getting out to trick or treat. But there are some things the parents should be on the lookout for this year to keep their children safe. First, make sure the costume is the right size. Oversized costumes could be a tripping hazard. Choose non-toxic face paint, and children under 12 should always be accompanied by an adult. And if they're older than that, they should at least travel in groups. Experts also suggest that kids stick to areas they're familiar with and areas that are well lit. And many of you sharing how you're getting ready for Halloween. On the left, Raven sent in this picture of Splash trying to be spooky with his pumpkin. And on the right, Joe sent us this picture of his pinhead costume, which he says he made himself. Awesome. And we want to see how you're celebrating Halloween. Make sure to send us your pictures and videos by scanning the QR code on your screen now or by heading to foxbaltimore.com/chime in. And it is looking like fall outside, not feeling like it, but take a look at this beautiful drone video of the fall foliage across Maryland. Although the trees look like it, the weather, as I mentioned this week, not so much, feels more like summer. We are close to hitting record high temperatures today. But that could be changing just in time for Halloween, unfortunately. I wish that the warmer temperatures would stick around for Tuesday, Jasmine, but I guess we'll take them this weekend.
Yeah, I agree. The warm temperatures should stick around for Halloween, at least for the night, but we unfortunately are talking a major cool down, and the low temperatures will fall to the 30s. Still, you have a chance to enjoy the nice and summer-like temperatures as the weekend continues. 77 currently and mostly cloudy over Baltimore. Around the state, we are now mostly dry. We had a few showers over the state, a little bit of light rain. It's later in the weekend, though, as the weekend comes to an end, when you can expect the next chance for showers. Otherwise, it's dry around the state with temperatures mainly in the 70s. It's been another very warm afternoon, and we did reach the 80s a couple hours ago. Across the state, temperatures will drop to the 50s and 60s tonight, keeping things above average, and that warm trend will continue tomorrow. Highs for the afternoon reach 84. Then we're looking at 70 on Sunday, so 14-degree drop in temperatures, but this is still above average for this time of year. We'll have the chance for showers, and then we have another chance for showers on Monday. Temperatures will still be above average in the upper 60s and low 70s as the month begins to end. Around the region, we're mostly dry. We've got high pressure keeping us dry, but to our west, you can see a few showers, and we also have a cold front. That's what's going to lead to that big cool down as the weekend comes to an end. But a second cold front will bring the cooler temperatures for Halloween. So notice on the future scan, we stay dry overnight, and we'll wake up to plenty of sunshine in the morning. It looks great for the afternoon with lots of sunshine, and then overnight, more clouds return, and there could be a few stray showers. This continues overnight. We could be waking up to areas of isolated showers Sunday morning, but into the afternoon, those rain chances increase. The day won't be a washout, but still make sure that you have backup plans if you do plan on spending any time outside. 62 for the low temperature with mostly clear skies. Then tomorrow we'll have plenty of sunshine as highs reach the mid-80s, keeping things very warm and almost summer-like as the weekend continues. But we do have that slight cool down coming for Sunday. 70 with the chance for a few showers, 71 with scattered showers on Monday, and unfortunately there's the chance for a few spotty showers on Halloween. 55 for the high temperature, lows drop to the 30s. Then 56 as we head into the middle of the week. After that, temperatures return to the 60s. Back to you.
Still ahead tonight, the fallout continues after an active shooter kills 18 people in Maine. The manhunt underway as families search for missing loved ones. Plus, more airstrikes in the Middle East, leading to even more casualties, the most recent death toll, and the efforts to send aid. For the second night in a row, the IDF conducted what it called targeted raids inside Gaza. This was before it withdrew. Now, that's according to a statement today. Video published by the military showed tanks and armored vehicles moving on a road near agricultural land, as well as strikes on buildings and open areas. The raid, which included aircraft and artillery strikes, targeted Hamas infrastructure, according to the IDF statement. It is day 12 now of the war between Israel and Hamas. According to Palestinian health officials, more than 7,300 people have been killed in Israeli attacks on Gaza. Women, children, and the elderly make up nearly 70% of those killed. 12 of the enclave's 34 hospitals are no longer functioning. Fox 45 is partnering with Magen David Adom for Sinclair Cares Humanitarian Relief for Israel. The organization is a Red Cross affiliate providing emergency medical aid for all people in Israel. To help, you can scan that QR code right there on your screen or go to sinclaircares.com. Coming up after the break, juveniles caught on camera committing violent acts. The calls to hold these young offenders accountable.
I'm Janae Bowens in Washington with a look at the correlation between mass shootings and mental health.
He said he had the gunshots. You have to be worried about your children every single day, and it's crazy.
It's a possibility that he need to go to another school because it don't make no sense that your child ain't safe in school.
The parents are speaking out after 3 juveniles are shot right in front of Carver Vocational High in the city. This is the latest incident showcasing a severity of juveniles being victims of crime and often suspects in crimes. And we regularly see young people, again, as both victim and suspects.
We do. Joining us live tonight to weigh in is spokesperson for the group Peace, Yuripsi Morgan. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Well, City Council President Nick Mosby released a statement today reacting to that shooting. Do you think that the council is doing enough to address the juvenile crime crisis?
You know, I have to say that there's been a lot of growing frustration within the community. Part of what I do as a spokesperson for this organization, Peace, is go into the community. We have held town halls, we're at community organizations, community meetings, and the growing frustration has been that they don't feel like their representatives have been doing enough, or at least being angry enough with what's been going on. We are starting to see the council kind of turn around on that. But the reality is that we still have some terrible bills on the books that allow too many people who are doing too many terrible things back out on the streets. And there's not been a special session or any real urgency called to do something about it.
Yuripsi, were you aware of this letter that Councilman Eric Costello sent to Deputy Mayor for Public Safety Anthony Barksdale? He was concerned about a crime in his district in which a guy, and you can see it on the video, guy is robbed on his scooter. Were you aware of that? And what did you think of the councilman's words to the deputy mayor? He's pretty upset.
Yeah, you know, and I was so glad to read that letter because it echoes what we hear from community residents. And this is one of the frustrations with particularly this mayor's administration is that we were being told for months, for the last almost 3 years, that everything is getting better. Don't worry, the numbers are going down. And yet residents are saying, but I'm afraid to walk out of my front door. My car is getting broken into. You know, we're afraid of what's going on. And this constant narrative that everything is fine is finally gotten to a boiling point. So I thank the councilman for reiterating what members of the community have been saying for a couple of years now.
And we are seeing some infighting among the city council. So do you think the public can trust them to put their differences aside to address these big issues?
You know, I think it really depends on what the infighting is really about. Obviously, we would want them to put their personal issues aside. But really, I think if the conflict has more to do with people who are willing and finally, whether it's taken this long or not, but are they finally willing to stand up for the people that they represent, then, you know, at that point, then let them keep going, because I think some of them are finally speaking up and speaking out and saying the things that residents have been saying.
Yuripsi Morgan with the group Peace. Yuripsi, we always appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Elsewhere in a city in crisis, the FBI raided the Bel Air Edison Safe Streets location early yesterday morning. Agents also searched the home of 2 Safe Streets employees. Sources close to that investigation tell Fox 45 it may be because of possible gang affiliation. Fox 45's Jeff Abel is looking into what this investigation means and what could come next. Jeff?
Well, what this means, according to experts, is that FBI agents are already far along in their investigation and are already convinced they have a case. In fact, raids like this one that went down at Safe Streets on Bel Air Road yesterday didn't happen without layers of oversight. Before agents are allowed to search a location, experts say they must get approval from an FBI supervisor, a federal prosecutor, and a federal judge. And to get that approval, experts say agents must show there's already probable cause to prove a crime has taken place.
If the FBI is this far along where they've gotten probable cause to conduct a raid and a search warrant, probably means the investigation had been in effect for probably a year, because again, you have to do a 30-day preliminary investigation. So at the very least, you've investigated for 30 days and gotten permission to continue this particular investigation. So they've done a lot up to this point where they have enough where they don't really mind the organization or others being alerted to the fact that this organization is under investigation.
Well, during a raid like this, Powers says agents are typically looking for more concrete information, more evidence to concretely seal the case. And often, he says, those close to the case come forward and cooperate. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Jeff, thank you. Well, we'll continue to update this story on air and online as we know more. To follow along and look back at all of our previous Safe Streets coverage, head to foxbaltimore.com.
An armed carjacking is caught on camera. That crime, Baltimore police say, one of several armed robberies and carjackings committed in one morning. Alexa Ashwell has surveillance, video, and the latest on the arrest of 2 teens.
Baltimore police confirm at least 7 armed carjackings or robberies occurred here in the southeastern district just yesterday morning alone, and that 2 teens have been arrested for at least one of those cases, and now they believe they're responsible for others.
Shocking surveillance captures a man being mobbed by a group of suspects in a southeast Baltimore neighborhood. The crime captured from multiple vantage points. Watch as the group jumps out of 2 cars. At least one suspect can be seen drawing a gun. The suspects surround the victim and his car. The victim can be heard saying, "Okay, just take it." The crime was one of at least 7 armed carjackings and robberies that police confirm were committed in southeast Baltimore within the span of several hours yesterday morning. Investigators say they arrested a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old for at least one of those other cases, detailing the teens stole a car at gunpoint on South Conkling Street near Highlandtown around 3 yesterday morning. Later that day, Baltimore police say an officer spotted the stolen car, and after a brief foot chase, both teens were taken into custody in southwest Baltimore.
It's not a matter of, hey, if my car will be stolen. No, it's when.
Fear and frustration that's felt citywide. Across Baltimore, there have been nearly 9,100 car thefts reported so far this year, and 417 carjackings. Some have resulted in murder, like the shooting death of Daryl Benner, gunned down outside of his home in Canton as suspects stole his nephew's car back in August. An arrest has yet to be made in that case.
This is a major quality of life and public safety problem, and to me, it drives people out of our city.
Back in September, Baltimore City Councilman Zeke Cohen introduced and council passed a resolution that calls certain agencies to the table to address the issue. Investigators say it's often young people committing these crimes. Out of the 2 teens just arrested for the armed carjacking on South Conkling Street, investigators say the 16-year-old had just been arrested for auto theft 2 months ago. This speaking to what's been described as the revolving door when it comes to the juvenile justice system. Young suspects are often released and quickly back out on the streets committing more crimes.
No other arrests have been made. Cohen's meeting is scheduled for November 8th, but based on the numbers and the data, hundreds more people will fall victim to these crimes before then. In southeast Baltimore, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Well, that carjacking comes just days after a string of crimes across Federal Hill and Fells Point, also believed to have been committed by juveniles. Take a look at this. In one morning, there were at least 6 carjackings across 2 neighborhoods, all of them happening within 2 hours. One of the incidents even caught on camera. In this security camera footage, you can see a group approach a woman out for a walk with her dog. One witness told Fox 45 News that group punched her before stealing her phone.
And some members of the city council say it's getting harder for people to feel safe in their own communities. Councilman Eric Costello sending a letter about his concerns to Deputy Mayor for Public Safety Anthony Barksdale. That letter describes a crime in his district in which a man on a scooter was mugged along a well-lit street in front of several surveillance cameras. In the letter, the councilman says, quote, "The perpetrators have little fear given the brazen nature of this crime." Goes on to say police took more than 9 hours to reach out to the victim or the business where the crime happened to get camera footage of the crime. For our full coverage on the youth crime crisis and more details on the councilman's concerns, head to foxbaltimore.com.
Work as hard as we can, as fast as we can, with as many resources as we can to try to bring some kind of closure. We have to take our time. We're going to be processing every square inch of these facilities. Not only do you have the victims in question, but every one of those rounds that got fired need to be investigated.
Well, we're taking a live look now from Lewiston, Maine tonight, where the intense manhunt continues for the suspect who shot and killed at least 18 people and injured over a dozen more. Many Maine schools, government buildings, and businesses remain closed today. Officials urging residents to continue sheltering in place as hundreds of law enforcement officers search for mass shooting suspect Robert Card. The 40-year-old alleged shooter, a certified firearms instructor and a member of the U.S. Army Reserves, is facing an arrest warrant for multiple counts of murder after police say he went on a rampage Wednesday night, shooting and killing victims inside a bowling alley and local bar.
Well, talks of gun control are reviving after Wednesday's mass shooting in Maine, but the new Speaker of the House, who's now in charge of moving any legislation on the issue, says now is not the time.
At the end of the day, the problem is the human heart. It's not guns, it's not the weapons.
Louisiana Republican Mike Johnson argues there's a mental health crisis in America, and if someone wants to kill innocent people, they'd find another way if they couldn't get a gun. He adds that the GOP is committed to protecting American Second Amendment rights. President Biden and other leading Democrats have called Maine's gun laws loose and say tighter laws could have prevented this tragedy from happening. Yesterday, the president renewed his call for a ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines, among other gun control measures.
According to various reports, the suspect in the Maine mass shooting had mental health issues. But what role does mental health play in mass shootings?
The National Desk Janae Bowens explains it's not an easy answer.
Research from the National Institute of Justice shows the role of mental illness in mass shootings is not clear-cut. However, they found mental health issues were common among those who engaged in mass shootings. 30% of mass shooters were suicidal prior to the shooting. About a third were found to have experiences of severe childhood trauma. Over 80% were in crisis, and psychosis has played a minor role overall.
Now, thankfully, in the country, the stereotype about getting access when you need it is changing.
Colleen Creighton with Brady, a national gun violence prevention organization, says mental health care is becoming destigmatized, but she says it's going to take more people speaking up to get people the help they need and to prevent violence.
Know your neighbors, know who lives next door to you, know if someone seems a little bit like they're struggling. Intervene, ask, are you thinking of harming yourself? Are you thinking of harming others? Do you have access to a gun?
Again, we want to emphasize research shows the correlation between mental illness and mass shootings is not clear-cut. But what is clear, if you or someone you know is struggling, get help. You can always call 988. That's the nationwide mental health crisis and suicide prevention number. In Washington, I'm Janae Bowens.
Coming up after the break, a classic comedy coming to Baltimore, a preview of Funny Girl, the Broadway musical. Taylor Swift hitting another milestone coming up after the break, her new title.
And it's been a very warm day, and the evening looks great for spending time outside. The warm trend continues into the weekend, but it'll be cooler by Halloween. I'll let you know what you can expect coming up in my full forecast.